What is going on, Misfits? Good to see you again. Welcome back to another edition. I'll get it out. Welcome back to another edition of Logician Tim Learns, where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a more informed gaming newbie. Yeah, that's right. We are back tonight. We are going to be working on some of this Degenesis. We're wrapping it up tonight. 2 weeks of 2 solid books of an awesome game. I just got to say, it's amazing. What is up, Joe? Good to see you, my dude. And Angela, if you're watching, hello. Jillian, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, we're heading off to Gamma on Sunday, and we'll be there all of next week. I'm so excited. Out to Reno. It's going to be my first time out in Reno, so we'll have to see what kind of trouble we can get into. Going to be meeting some people and going out to dinners and going to these classes, industry classes and stuff. It should be fun. We'll see. We're going to be working on the RPG a whole lot, so I'm really excited about that. So we actually get to do some writing and some play testing, and I'm really looking forward to that. So you guys will be seeing a lot more content about that as the time passes. But we're not talking about that tonight. We were here talking about Degenesis, and we're going to be doing the report card tonight. And so I'm always kind of excited and kind of saddened when I have to do the report card, because that means it's over, and I'm going to be starting on a new one, which is exciting. But this one was pretty amazing, So let me get into this real quick. Where am I at? Actually, I'm just going to flip this open to some cool art that you guys can kind of look at while I'm yapping about stuff. Because some of the... anyway, I'll jump right in. All right, so the first thing we want to look at is the character creation, right? So character creation in Degenesis, if you remember, there were 6 steps, right? You had to choose your culture, concept, and cult. Okay, the 3 C's. That was first. Concept, culture, and cult. And then secondly, we're going to spend our points on our attributes and skills, things like that. Then we're going to spend our points on the backgrounds. Then we're going to determine our rank inside of our cult. And then we're going to choose our potential. That could either be a potential, like a general potential, or a specialized potential that you get from your cult, which is kind of cool. And then you're going to do the finishing touches. Now, the biggest part of this, of character creation, is really the first one, right? The 3 C's, the culture, cult, and concept. Picking those three things is kind of like the biggest part. And the amount of background and just in-depth information given to each of the cultures and the cults is just amazing. I mean, that whole first book almost was, at least probably 60, 70, 80% of it was all about the cults and the cultures. And it's just amazing. And if you spend the time to read that whole first book like I did, you're going to be very much so rewarded with the knowledge of all the differences between the cults and cultures. And just, it's so neat. And if you're like me, I already had my favorites kind of in my head while I was reading. Oh, I really like this one. Oh, I really like this one, but this one's my favorite. And so I had my favorites kind of pretty much what I wanted to play, but long before I got to the character creation section. Angela said, hi, Tim. Hey, all right, good. You are watching. So yeah, they had these really nice charts. I was going to show you here. I had these really nice charts in the character creation when it was time to pick like your culture and your cult, because they do give you some attribute and skill bonuses. And I really like this kind of chart that they had here for us. So here's the common cults right here. Here's the culture. So if you choose Borka, then you're going to get these attribute bonuses and the skill bonuses. And so you can quickly look and say, okay, well, I want my character to be, have more intellect. Well, then I might want to choose Hyperspania down here, right? Because I get that intellect bonus, right? If you're looking for more charisma, you might choose the Purgare down here, right? Because it has a charisma attribute. And so you can quickly look and think about, okay, well, I want my character to be more of this, and so I might want to choose this culture. And I just think that's really, really handy, and I like that they threw those types of things in there for us. Now, I did kind of ding it. You can see it got an 8 out of 10. I did ding it a couple of points because it really does require a large time investment to get started and really make informed decisions about your character before starting. You're not going to just kind of jump on and go, oh, I'll just play this, and you just take off and go. Not really. I mean, I guess you maybe could, but it wouldn't be a very well-informed decision. I think if you you would really need to read that entire first book to be able to make an informed decision on what character you would like to play for the most part. And I mean, you could do it without it, but I think to make an informed choice, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, it does. It's going to require a whole lot of time versus some of the other games I looked at. So it did get an 8 out of 10 in character creation. Now, in character customization, let's look at that. It got a 9 out of 10. And so I tried, I just couldn't come up with very much substantial that I would change about character customization. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? My sheet is wrong. They actually got a 10 out of 10 in character customization. I made a typo up there, guys. It was damn near perfect. Okay. There's just not really anything I would change. You get to choose which cult, which is kind of like your class, right? Like the Spitalians and the Helvetics, the Palers, all that kind of stuff. You get to choose which one of those you like to play. And you also get to choose which cultures you're from. Then you get to choose those potentials, like I was talking about, either the general or the specialized, that's according to your cult, that you're going to have. You're going to get to choose your different attributes and skills. And all these things are going to, especially your attributes and skills, are going to impact your starting rank within your cult. And this is where it just really came in for me, was the cults and the rankings inside your cult, where you're going to start off as a recruit and then you're going to move up into that cult. And there's like branches. And so, you can be different ones. I just think it's awesome. And so, you can choose to be a Spitalian who's kind of like a healer, usually for the most part. So you can choose to be a healer Spitalian, or you can kind of take a different track and maybe be a fighter. If you want to play a merchant, but also maybe fight with some really cool, like high-tech equipment, maybe you could play a Neo-Libyan. And there's so many different types of things that you can do with this. It seems awesome. There seems to be something for everyone, and no two characters are going to be alike. And I just think that's awesome. So that is a 10 out of 10. It's not a 9 out of 10. What are you doing, Timbo? You had one job. All right. Now, if we start looking at, yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, I just messed it up. I just typoed it. And if we start looking at the progression, they really do have a 10 out of 10 here. The ranks in the cults are genius, in my opinion. And as you level up your attributes and your skills, and so when you use your EXP points, you can buy attributes and skills, skill points. And as you do that, you're going to meet the minimum requirements to like level up into your cult, right? Get to that next rank in your cult. And this is going to give you new abilities as well as equipment. And the fact that there's forks in the ranks makes it even better. And I'm going to show you this real quick in the book. So let's see, which one is this guy? This is the Chroniclers, okay? And so if you look up here is the rank system. So you're going to start off as a bit, right? Then you're going to go to an agent at level 2. And at level 3, you can see how it kind of forks off, a mediator or a shutter. And then it can fork off again down here, right? And so each one of these is really going to make, as you rank up, going to kind of change the way that your character plays a little bit. So maybe you're a healer and you want to be a little bit more of a fighter. We can take a different rank at that level and, kind of get more skills and equipment and abilities that are more of a fighter, or vice versa, right? I just think that's awesome that they did that. What is up, Scott? Good to see you, my dude. Good to see you. Thanks for joining in. But yeah, I just absolutely love the ranking system inside the cults. I think that just makes it super duper cool. And so they could not get any better on character progression or customization. Like I said, it's a typo on customization. They got a 10 out of 10, guys. So yeah, your character is going to gain, let me make sure I don't skip this. Your character is going to gain experience points as you spend them, upgrading your attributes and skills, and your character is going to feel different and stronger as you gain ranks in your cult. I think that's badass. Really cool. Not just level 2, level 3. No, you're actually moving up in rank in your cult. I think that's a genius way of doing it. So let's take a look at the next section, which is mechanics. Now, the ease of mechanics, I got a 9 out of 10 because Degenesis, as you know, uses a D6 dice pool system. And I'm a huge fan of that, right? D6 dice pool, I love it. So any dice with a value of 4, 5, or a 6 is considered a success. Now, 6s, if you remember, they are considered triggers. They call them triggers. And so if you roll a 6 on something, they're going to allow you to do like extra damage, or sometimes you can actually get extra actions, maybe like an extra attack or something else you can do with that action in some cases. And it's pretty cool. What is up, Matt? Good to see you, my dude. Good to see you. Now, to determine your dice pool, and they call the dice pool an action number in this game, but it's your dice pool pretty much. You're going to add your attribute plus your skill, along with like any bonuses or penalties that you might have. It's really, really easy to understand. I like that. I had to ding them just a little bit because of the equipment and weapon stats. And this is where each weapon has like an F number. They call it F, like as in force number. And it's usually something like F divided by 2 or F divided by 4. And so when you go to figure out your damage, you have to do a little bit of math by inserting kind of like your appropriate attribute and skill along with your F number. And it's nothing too advanced, but it just seemed like a little bit cumbersome to me. Again, you probably would just fill it out on your sheet. And, you know, if your attributes change, you probably change that with it. But it just seemed a little fumbly to me. So I did ding it just slightly there. I hate doing math and just like, come on. I don't want the algorithms, right? Scott, do my algorithms, dude. Now, originality and cool factor, right? This is where I go, oh, wow. Well, in this case, in Degenesis, I didn't see a whole lot in the mechanics that was super cool, or maybe say, oh, wow, right? The triggers was kind of cool, and I like the way that they did damage with like the flesh wounds. Remember, you had the box of flesh wounds, and once those get filled up, then you're going to move into your trauma, and those traumas, every trauma that you get is going to cost you a 1 dice penalty for each one. So I kind of liked that, but it wasn't anything like, holy smokes, this is totally unique and awesome. So they did get just an average score in the originality cool factor as far as mechanics are concerned. Now you start looking at the depth of mechanics, and this is really tough for a D6 dice system to get a good score in depth usually. For me, they added just the right amount to the mechanics to keep them interesting without being overly complicated. So I feel the mechanic systems will handle like the everyday challenges, you know, the pick the lock challenges, right? Along with combat very well without being drastically different systems, right? They use pretty much the same system for combat and non-combat things. And I think that just makes it so much easier on people versus having 2 complete different systems to learn, right? And I just really dig that. I think it was simple, but it was enough depth that kept me interested. And so it's the attribute plus skill. You know, it pretty much works for everything. And having the ability to do like the physical damage plus, you know, also having the psyche damage, I thought that was really cool. It's a huge plus in my book. They had kind of support type characters. Remember the Chroniclers, the kind of the Darth Vader guys, as I call them. You know, it sounds like they're almost like a crowd control or support type group where they can weaken enemies from a distance without doing physical damage. They do a lot of psyche damage. And I just think that's so much fun. And it would sound like that'd probably be my class. I really like the idea of being that kind of support role. So anyway, I think they did a really good job on it. So mechanics overall, they got a 9 out of 10. Now in their narrative, this is no surprise to anybody. They got a 10 out of 10. The storyline in Degenesis is nothing short of amazing. I mean, wow. This is the first RPG that I've gotten so immersed in that I've actually started. I was having dreams about the book since I opened it, and almost every single night. And that's never happened to me before. That's how immersive this world is. It felt like I was watching a movie or a long television show every day while studying this, and then having dreams about it. It was pretty awesome. And the fact that they added like a whole book, 302 pages, to describing the world, the cults, the cultures, the psychonauts. I mean, how cool is that? The psychonauts all having different abilities depending on where they're located, right? How badass is that? It just really shows the love and the passion that they poured into this game. And it's absolutely fascinating. It really is. 10 out of 10, no doubt. Now, if we look at the value, all right, the value, they got a 9 out of 10 in content. So the 2 books, remember this is 2 books, each of them have 302 pages. So both of them are exactly 302 pages, which is interesting. And each of them are full of just glorious, glorious lore and art and well thought out mechanics. You can really tell that they took their time and gave each section the love that it deserved. They didn't really overlook anything, that, in my opinion. Now, the first book with the lore was written in this kind of narrative style. And like I said, it was almost poetic, and it made it difficult to translate, for the stream. So like I said before, it was almost like reading poetry, which is awesome until you try to translate that to simple and basic information for other people. And then it was very tough. It took me a lot longer than normal. Excuse me. What's up, DJ? So it took me a lot longer than normal than just kind of read and plug in and put into, normal people words. But I think that's just, a content creator issue, and, it wouldn't affect, normal people at all. So one thing that bothered me is where they use proper nouns without introduction. Okay. You can't. So it would tell me like these people right here hate Spitalians, but they never told me like who Spitalians were before that. It would just bam, right in my face. I'm like, oh crap. So I had to kind of bounce back and forth a little bit in the book, just sometimes to kind of, when it wasn't obvious, and just kind of get background on some people or places or things, like some of the psychonauts and stuff like that, or some of the diseases that psychonauts would spread. They would announce it, but never describe it until much later. And so there was a whole lot of that going on. It made it a little bit difficult to read at some points. And then finally, the GM guide seemed just a little bit lacking to me compared to other RPGs that I've written, that I've read. So it was mostly advice on storytelling, and it was really, really good advice. It was great stuff, and I thought they did a good job in that. But that was pretty much it. I would like to see this section just kind of beefed up a little bit more with some general GM tips and some tips on running this game specifically. So I would just like to see that just a little bit. So they got dinged just 1 point there. Now, if you look at their artwork, this is no shocker, right? You've seen the artwork in here. It's incredible. They've done a wonderful job bringing the world of Degenesis to life with their art, and the different cultures and cults all have completely different looks to them. The weaponry, the flora and fauna, they're all different, very, wildly different. And it's simply amazing. It's and it showcased like on the paper quality is just incredible too. And it's going to be impossible for you to see here, but the paper quality has just like the right amount of gloss for the art to just really pop without being, too distracting most times, right? There was a few times, especially on the pages that were black, that were a lot harder to read because of the black paper being so glossy. You had to kind of turn the page a little bit. But hey, I was willing to sacrifice because the whole book wasn't black, and it was just usually a few pages. Most of them were white, and making it a lot easier for me to read, and I'm really thankful for that. So yeah, the artwork was absolutely amazing. Incredible. 10 out of 10. What's up, Mitchell? Now, in the layout section, so most of the book is pretty well laid out, and there were just a few things that kind of seemed out of place for me, but it wasn't glaring, and it really could have just been like my own personal preference. It wasn't like this should have been over here. It very much could have been, okay, this for me should have been over there. But I can kind of understand maybe why they did it that way. But there wasn't too many of them, and it wasn't horribly annoying like I've seen it before. The graphic design, though, in each chapter is amazing in itself. It's not just the art; it was the graphic design, the little backgrounds and little flair things that they did in each chapter. Where each section kind of had its own unique design and feeling to it, and it kind of applied to that section that you're looking in. And so like the Helvetics had this kind of like military type design to it. And the Chroniclers had this like kind of digital like motherboard designs and stuff. And each one had their own different flavors. And it's just incredible. They really took the time all the way down to the background design of the paper that you're reading. And that really showed. It really showed. They put a lot of care into it. So they got a 9 out of 10 in that. And so if we start looking at their overall score, so what I do is I take each one of these underlined categories and then I average those together, right? And that brings us to an overall score of 9.25 out of 10. And so when I do these report cards, and I've said this before, I go through each section one at a time, and I give it a score along with my thoughts, right? At the end, I average everything together out to this overall score. And then I like to kind of take a step back and go, does that jive with, kind of my thoughts on the book overall? And I think this one is about a half point lower than kind of the way I think about it in my head. So I think it really deserves to be about a 9.75 out of 10, in my opinion. It's just that good. It really is. And so, but I figure out kind of what happened here is, I always round, like, so if it's 8.3, then it gets an 8, right? If it's, 8.6, it might get a 9. So if you kind of do all that stuff in there, it would have gotten that 9.75 or so. I think it had that extra point in there, but the rounding pretty much took it off. So that can be explained. So I think it pretty much makes sense, but I think in reality, I think it would have been a 9.75 out of 10, in my opinion. It's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it's really darn close. It's really close, and it's really incredible, and it sets the bar extremely high for other games out there to knock this one down. It's absolutely amazing. Now, if I compared this to other books, I think Tales from a Loop and Coriolis both got a 9.25 out of 10. And I think this one really deserves a little bit more. And I might actually go back and just change it to 9.75 because it really is it's even to me better than Coriolis and Tales from a Loop as my favorite that I've read so far. It's absolutely incredible. Well, I'm stupid curious about this one myself. I'm a huge fan of the studio behind it and the artist as well. Yeah, Matt, you won't be disappointed. I know it's like $117 for this 2-book set. If you can swing it, dude, just grab it. It is amazing. It is amazing. The reading is great. The artwork, is amazing. Everything about it is amazing. So yeah, pick it up. Pick it up. So the question really is, is this game for you? And so if the way I look at it is, if you're looking for like a post-apocalyptic game that has this kind of a mix of sci-fi, like modern and primitive, like weaponry and kind of living, right? If you don't mind investing a whole lot of time, studying and researching, reading the book and really kind of looking through it, the lore and the characters in the game before you start, there's no doubt you should pick this up if you don't mind those type of things. If you've been on the fence, I don't know, about like a D6 system, and maybe you've looked at one before and it just kind of lets you down, pick this one up and give it a try again. I seriously don't think you'd be disappointed. I think it would be a lot of fun to play. It seems like it would flow very well, and you would really stay immersed into the story, but it's got enough combat depth that that would just make it interesting, and it would make it exciting when you get into combat. I just think that's so cool. So yeah, they ended up with a 9.25, but I'm really saying it's a 9.75 out of 10, just because, I'm going to round it up. Or I'm not going to round it up. Because of the rounding I did before, that's what it is. So I'm going to go back and change my score. That's what I'm going to do. Because I can do that, guys. This is me. And I'm an expert on my opinion. And so, yeah, I love this book. I would totally recommend you going out and grabbing it. And you can get it. If you just look up Degenesis, it's done by Six More Vodkas. And I think they're out of the UK somewhere. And so the only place I could find it was on their website. And so if you just look up Degenesis RPG, you'll be able to find that. And like I said, it was like $117 US, like $99 or 99 pounds. So, but you do have to pay to get it shipped over. But it's fantastic. Fantastic. So that's about it from me tonight. I appreciate you all tuning in. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them down into the chat. Or if you're watching this back, like Neil, I know you like to watch these back, then go ahead and say hi down in the comments, and I'll say hi back. I always like to answer questions back. If you get them on here, I'll try to answer them best I can. Right. Anyways, we're leaving for Gamma in Reno on Sunday, and so we'll be there all week. And if you're going to Gamma, let me know. Say hi. Let's go have some dinner or something, have some lunch, whatever. Have a cup of coffee, and meet up somewhere. That's it for me tonight. I appreciate you all tuning in. We will see you. You'll see me on Facebook because I'll be posting stuff next week. We We might end up doing a stream. Who knows? Who knows? That's it for me tonight. I appreciate you all watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.